I still remember the day I stumbled upon it like it was yesterday. I had been exploring the depths of my grandfather's attic for hours, rummaging through old trunks and dusty boxes in search of forgotten heirlooms. The air was thick with the scent of decay and neglect, and a fine layer of dust coated everything in sight. As I pushed aside a tattered blanket, a faint hum caught my attention. It was a low, almost imperceptible vibration that seemed to emanate from beneath the blanket itself. I pulled back the fabric, revealing a small, leather-bound book nestled between two old photographs. The cover was worn and cracked, with strange symbols etched into the surface in a language I couldn't understand. A faint scent of incense wafted up, making my stomach twist with unease. I had always known that my grandfather was a collector of rare and obscure texts, but I had never seen anything like this before. The book seemed to radiate an otherworldly energy, as if it were alive and watching me. A shiver ran down my spine as I reached out to touch the cover, feeling an inexplicable pull towards it. I carefully opened the book, revealing yellowed pages filled with handwritten notes in a language that seemed to shift and writhe like living serpents. The air around me grew colder, and I could have sworn I heard a whispering in my ear, urging me to turn the pages and uncover its secrets. I hesitated for a moment, feeling a sense of trepidation wash over me. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I began to read, devouring the words on the page like a starving man at an all-you-can-eat buffet. The words seemed to sear themselves into my brain, burning with an inner fire that left me breathless and yearning for more. As I read, the room around me grew darker, as if the very light itself was being drained away by some unseen force. And yet, I couldn't look away. I knew then that I had stumbled upon something truly remarkable, a book of dark power, one that held secrets and knowledge beyond human comprehension. But as I delved deeper into its pages, I began to realize that the cost of unlocking its secrets might be higher than I was willing to pay. As the days passed, I found myself returning to the book again and again, poring over its pages with an insatiable hunger for knowledge. My grandfather had always warned me about the dangers of dabbling in the occult, but I had dismissed his concerns as mere superstition. Now, I wasn't so sure. The more I read, the more I became convinced that this book held the key to unlocking some of humanity's greatest secrets. But every time I thought I was getting close to understanding its true nature, the book seemed to shift and twist around me, leaving me feeling frustrated and defeated. It was as if it were playing a game with me, taunting me with clues and hints that only seemed to lead to more questions. One night, as I was sitting in my grandfather's study, surrounded by stacks of dusty tomes and flickering candles, I stumbled upon an entry that made my blood run cold. The book had been lying open on the desk, its pages fluttering in the draft from the window. As I read the words scrawled across the page, a chill ran down my spine. It seemed that this was no ordinary book. It was a catalog of dark rituals and forbidden knowledge, passed down through generations of occultists who had sought to unlock the secrets of the universe. The more I read, the more I realized that my grandfather had been hiding something from me, something big. He had known about the book all along, but he had kept its existence a secret, even from his closest friends and family. I felt a wave of anger wash over me. Why had he lied to me? What was he trying to keep hidden? As I delved deeper into the book's secrets, I began to notice strange occurrences around the house. Doors would slam shut on their own, and I could swear I heard whispers in the night. It was as if the book was exerting some kind of influence over me, drawing me deeper into its dark world with every passing moment. I knew then that I had to get out, but it was too late. The book seemed to have a hold on me now, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pulled towards something terrible. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks, poring over the book's pages and researching its dark history. I knew that I was taking a risk by delving deeper into its secrets, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the verge of uncovering something truly remarkable. The night of the first reading arrived, and I felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as I settled in to begin my journey. I had chosen a remote location for the ritual, away from prying eyes and unwanted witnesses. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of the book's power bearing down upon me. As I opened the cover, a musty scent wafted up, carrying with it whispers of ancient incantations and forbidden knowledge. I lit the candles, and the flickering flames cast eerie shadows on the walls, as if the very spirits themselves were watching over me. The book's pages seemed to rustle in anticipation, as if they knew that this was a momentous occasion. I began to read, my voice low and husky as I spoke the words of power. The air around me grew colder and the shadows deepened, until it seemed as though I was reading into the very heart of darkness itself. And then, suddenly, everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on the cold, damp floor, my head throbbing with a dull ache. The candles had burned down to nothing, and the room was bathed in an eerie, moonlit glow. But it was what I saw that made my blood run cold. The pages of the book were open, as if someone had been reading them while I slept. And on the final page, scrawled in red ink, was a single phrase: "I am not who you think I am." As I stumbled out of the ritual space, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The words on the final page seemed to sear themselves into my brain, refusing to be erased. I tried to focus on the practicalities of what had happened, how I would get home, how I would make sense of it all. But my mind was a jumble of conflicting emotions, each one threatening to overwhelm the next. Frustration, fear, and a creeping sense of dread all vied for dominance, making it impossible for me to think clearly. I stumbled through the streets, my eyes scanning the crowds with a growing sense of disconnection. People seemed distant, their faces blurred and unrecognizable. The sounds around me were muffled, as if I was walking through a dream world. I knew I needed to get back to the house, to try and make sense of what had happened. But every step felt like a struggle, as if I was fighting against an invisible force. And then suddenly I saw it, a small, antique shop tucked away between two larger buildings. The sign above the door read "Curios and Antiques," and something about it seemed to draw me in. I pushed open the door and was immediately hit with a wave of musty air and the scent of old books. The shop was dimly lit, the shelves crowded with strange and exotic items. And on the counter, sitting in front of a small, ornate box, was my grandfather's journal. I felt a jolt of recognition, as if I had stumbled upon a piece of myself that I never knew existed. But as I reached out to take it, I saw something that made my blood run cold, a sketch of me, drawn in the same red ink as the phrase on the final page of the book. As I stared at the sketch in horror, I felt a creeping sense of unease that spread through my veins like ice. It was as if something inside me was stirring, waking up from a long slumber. The hunger began to gnaw at me, a growling emptiness that seemed to echo the words on the final page of the book. "I am not who you think I am." I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But as the days passed, the hunger grew stronger until I could feel its presence like a palpable force. It was always there, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to pounce. I began to experience strange visions, fragments of memories that weren't mine. I saw myself standing in a dark forest, surrounded by twisted trees that seemed to reach out and grasp at me. I saw myself walking through a city streets, lined with buildings that seemed to twist and writhe like living things. And I saw myself standing in front of a mirror, staring back at a face that wasn't my own. The hunger was feeding on these visions, growing stronger with each passing day. I knew I had to do something, but what? I felt trapped, like I was being pulled down into some dark abyss from which there was no return. And then one night the hunger finally broke through. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart racing as I realized that I had eaten something. But it wasn't food. It was a small, scrawny bird that I had found on the windowsill of my apartment. The feathers were still clinging to its tiny bones, and for a moment I saw myself standing over the body, the hunger coursing through me like a river of fire. I knew then that I was no longer in control. The hunger was taking over, and I was just along for the ride. I walked through the city streets, my eyes scanning the crowds for any sign of familiarity. But everything seemed different now, like a funhouse mirror reflection of reality. The buildings loomed above me, their windows glowing with an otherworldly light. I could feel the hunger inside me, pulsing like a drumbeat in my chest. It was growing stronger by the minute, and I knew that I had to find a way to satisfy it before it consumed me whole. I spotted a small cafe on the corner of the street, its windows filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods. I pushed open the door and stepped inside, hoping to find some semblance of peace. But as I looked around, I saw that everything was different. The tables were arranged in a strange pattern, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. And on the walls, images seemed to writhe and twist, like living things. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that this cafe was not what it seemed. It was a portal, a gateway to some dark realm from which there was no return. The hunger inside me growled in protest, urging me forward into the unknown. And then I saw her, a woman with eyes that glowed like embers and skin as white as snow. She smiled at me, and I felt my heart skip a beat. But it was not a smile of welcome, but of warning. "You are not what you seem," she whispered, her voice like a sigh on the wind. "You are a creature of the night, a monster with an insatiable hunger." And with that, she vanished into thin air, leaving me alone and adrift in a world that had gone mad. The hunger inside me roared to life, and I knew that I was doomed to follow it, no matter where it led. I stumbled through the crowded streets, my mind reeling from the woman's words. Who was I? What did she mean by creature of the night? The hunger inside me seemed to be growing stronger, urging me forward into the unknown. I spotted a group of people gathered around a large stone statue in the center of the square. They were chanting and swaying, their eyes closed in ecstasy. As I watched, a figure emerged from the crowd, a tall, imposing man with skin as white as marble. He spoke in a voice that was both commanding and mesmerizing, his words dripping with an otherworldly power. "We have been waiting for you," he said, his eyes locking onto mine. "You are one of us now." The cultists parted to reveal a large stone door hidden behind them. The man gestured for me to approach it, and I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that this was my destiny. I pushed open the door and stepped through it, leaving the world I knew behind. On the other side, I found myself in a labyrinthine network of tunnels and chambers, lit by flickering candles and strange symbols etched into the walls. The man led me deeper into the heart of the cult, where I met the others, creatures like me, with eyes that glowed in the dark and skin as pale as moonlight. They welcomed me with open arms, embracing me as one of their own. And then, they began to teach me the secrets of our dark art. I learned how to control my hunger, how to bend it to my will. I became a vessel for an ancient power that had been dormant within me all along. And as I delved deeper into the mysteries of the cult, I realized that our goal was not just to survive, but to thrive in a world that was rapidly forgetting its own existence. As I delved deeper into the mysteries of the cult, I began to realize that our existence was not just a matter of survival, but also of hiding. We were creatures of the night, forced to live on the fringes of society, always looking over our shoulders for fear of being discovered. The man who had brought me into this world, known only as the leader, taught me how to navigate these shadows, how to use them to my advantage. I learned how to blend in with the crowds, how to hide in plain sight. And I learned how to strike, using my newfound powers to take down those who threatened our existence. But with each victory came a new realization. We were not just fighting for survival, but also for dominance. The cult was growing, spreading its tendrils into every corner of the city. We had infiltrated the highest echelons of power, manipulating events from behind the scenes to suit our own agenda. And I knew that one day, we would be ready to make our move, to take over the world and claim our rightful place as the rulers of the night. But for now, I was content to walk in the shadows, using my powers to keep the balance of power intact. For in a world where the line between good and evil was constantly blurred, it was better to be the one pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And so I continued to move through the city, a ghostly figure haunting the streets at night, ever vigilant, always watching. The hunger inside me still raged on, but I knew how to control it now. I had learned to harness its power, using it to fuel my own ambition. And as I walked, I felt a sense of pride and satisfaction that I had never felt before. I was no longer just a creature of the night. I was a force to be reckoned with. As I walked through the city, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something familiar about this place. A nagging sense of déjà vu that seemed to follow me everywhere. And then it hit me, a memory from my past life, long buried and forgotten. I saw myself as a child, playing in a park on a sunny afternoon. But something was off. The trees seemed twisted and gnarled, and the sky was a deep, foreboding gray. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But the image lingered, haunting me like a ghost. And then I heard it, a faint whisper in my ear, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. "You are not who you think you are," it said. "Your past is not your own." The words sent shivers down my spine, but I knew they were true. My memories were false, implanted by some unknown force. And yet I couldn't help but feel a connection to this place, to this park where the trees seemed to writhe and twist like living things. It was as if I had been here before, though I knew that was impossible. The hunger inside me roared to life, urging me forward into the unknown. I followed the whispers, tracing them back to an old, abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. And there, I found a room filled with artifacts from my past, photographs, letters, and other relics that seemed to hold secrets and stories that I could hardly remember. The hunger inside me grew stronger, but I knew I had to resist its pull. For in this room, I discovered a shocking truth. I was not the original, but a copy created by some unknown force, designed to serve a specific purpose. And that purpose was still alive and well, waiting for me to fulfill it. I stared at the photograph in my hand, my mind reeling from the implications. A stranger's face, yet somehow familiar. The eyes, the nose, the jawline, all identical to mine. But how was this possible? I tried to remember anything about this person, but it was as if they had never existed before me. And then I found the letter. A handwritten note, addressed to me, though I had no memory of writing it. The words were cryptic, but one phrase stood out. "The truth is not what you think it is." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that this was more than just a simple case of mistaken identity. There was something sinister at play here, something that threatened to upend everything I thought I knew about myself. I decided to investigate further, following a trail of clues that led me deeper into the heart of the city. Every step I took felt like a betrayal, as if I was walking away from my own soul. The air grew thick with an unsettling energy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. And then I saw her, a woman with eyes that seemed to see right through me. She smiled, and I felt a jolt of recognition, though I knew it wasn't possible. "Welcome back," she said, her voice dripping with an otherworldly sweetness. "I've been waiting for you." I tried to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The woman began to whisper secrets in my ear, secrets that made my blood run cold. I was not who I thought I was. My memories were false, implanted by some unknown force. And I was just a pawn in a much larger game. A game of deception and manipulation, where the stakes were higher than I could ever imagine. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into an abyss that seemed to stretch on forever. The woman's words still echoed in my mind, taunting me with their implications. Who was I really? What had happened to me? And what lay beyond the veil that separated reality from? Whatever it was, I was now caught up in. The air seemed to thicken around me, growing heavier with each passing moment. It was as if the very fabric of reality was bending and warping, like a funhouse mirror reflecting my own distorted perceptions. I took a step forward, feeling an inexorable pull towards the unknown. The woman's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, drawing me in with an unnerving intensity. "Come," she whispered, her voice like a siren's call. "Let go of your doubts and fears." I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I was ready to take that step, but something within me urged me forward, like a moth drawn to a flame. And so I stepped across the threshold, leaving behind the world I knew. On the other side, I found myself in a realm unlike anything I had ever seen. Twisted trees loomed above me, their branches grasping for the sky like skeletal fingers. The air was thick with an eerie, pulsing energy that seemed to reverberate through every cell of my body. And then, I saw them creatures unlike any I had ever imagined. They were humanoid in shape, but their bodies seemed to be made of shifting, liquid flesh. Their eyes burned with an inner fire, and they moved with a fluid, almost serpentine motion that sent shivers down my spine. The woman stood beside me, her eyes locked on mine with an unnerving intensity. "This is the realm of the forgotten," she whispered, "where the lost souls come to await their fate." And then I heard it, a voice that seemed to echo from beyond the stars themselves. A voice that spoke in hushed tones, telling me secrets about my past and my destiny. Secrets that made my blood run cold with fear and wonder. As I stood there, frozen in awe and terror, the voice spoke on, revealing secrets about my past that I had never imagined. The woman's eyes seemed to burn brighter with an otherworldly intensity as she listened, her gaze fixed on me like a predator sizing up its prey. I felt myself becoming lost in the depths of her gaze, like a shipwrecked sailor adrift on a stormy sea. And then the voice spoke again, its words dripping with malevolent intent. "You have been chosen," it said. "Chosen to be consumed by the dark." The woman's eyes flashed with excitement as she reached out and took my hand, her touch like ice on skin. I felt a jolt of electricity run through me, followed by a wave of nausea that threatened to sweep me off my feet. The creatures around us began to stir, their liquid flesh rippling like the surface of a pond. They moved closer, their eyes fixed on me with an unnerving hunger. I tried to pull away from the woman's grasp, but she held fast, her grip like a vice. "You will be mine," she whispered, her breath cold against my ear. "Forever and always." The voice spoke again, its words echoing through my mind like a mantra. "The darkness within you is growing stronger by the minute. It will consume you, body and soul." I felt myself being pulled into the depths of my own darkness, like a moth drawn to a flame. And then everything went black.